I think our girl is trying to reclaim the throne, and it's not working. Hi, welcome back to another AmberLynn alert. I don't know why I always forget the name of my own series, but there you have it. It's been that kind of week. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Amber's had 2 videos this week, and one was a 2-hour live and the other one was a recorded video at her regular almost 10-minute mark. If you guys don't know, YouTube has recently changed the requirements for monetization for putting in multiple ads into your videos from 10 minutes to 8 minutes. And so I've noticed that in coinciding with that, Amber's videos have gotten a little bit shorter. She doesn't need to put in as much filler anymore because she can monetize it at a lower minute count, right? And she had this really, really long live that she did, and it gave me very strong vibes of trying to emulate Chantel. If you guys don't know, there's a lot happening with Chantel, and we will get into that. And I think that, Amber's really trying very hard to capture that. She's really trying to capture some of that energy. She's coming on live. She wasn't really combative. She was a little bit, but not really quite so much. But whatever else you want to say about Chantel, she's definitely more messy, but she also has a lot more interest in her general story arc than Amber's does, especially because, like I've said, Amber edits her personality away until almost nothing. And so she's, I think, losing views. She's losing some of the momentum in her channel, and she's trying to recapture that, and she's trying to reincorporate lives into her channel and trying to get people to come back in and to join her again, essentially, just to join into the community that's surrounding Amber. But I don't really know how much that's working. I'm sorry, but can you really compete with going back and forth and flip-flopping about sleep apnea and what she has and hasn't said with 5 lines of coke? Not really. So let's get into the specifics of this, shall we? The first video that she has is, like I said, the live. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes long. I'm just going to go through. I'll pick out the few salient points that I have, and I'll talk about them.
So you have sleep apnea. Why did you say you didn't? Thank you for the super chat. And honestly, I have never been tested, so I can't say if I do or not. Looking a little rough. Girl, you're telling me. I know. I'm about to do my makeup. But thank you for the super chat. Becky, I love you. I am your biggest fan.
I love you too.
Oh, thank you for the super chat, you guys. Simply Krista, I'll mod you if you decide you need some help, just letting you know. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. How do you want to do this, babe? Do you want to look at the thing here, or do you want to look at the thing here?
I mean,
you literally said doctors told you that you did. Okay, so I have tried to explain this 1,012 times, I think. So I'm going to explain it here again. So when I went and got my DNC, it was a very quick procedure under anesthesia. See, I just can't talk. I get really nervous on here. And they did say that I stopped breathing for upwards to 30 seconds or something. So I had to be on a ventilator. They did say it was very common and that it could possibly be sleep apnea. So that is not a test. That is not how you find out you have sleep apnea. You have to actually go through a study. A lot of people stop breathing in surgery. You can be the healthiest ever and you just put on a ventilator. As for my hysterectomy surgery, it was a lot longer. The procedure was more invasive and intense, and I didn't stop breathing not once. So I don't know if I have sleep apnea. Obviously, it's a possibility. I mean, I am morbidly obese, but I have literally no symptoms of it. I don't know. I definitely have to get tested, obviously, to have a full-fledged answer.
This is one of the biggest threads that people have picked up on. Now, if you guys don't know, she's been doing this almost near continuous Ask Me Anything style questioning on her Instagram. And one of the questions that people had was that, well, why doesn't she talk to a doctor and get a sleep apnea machine? And she says, I don't have sleep apnea. I've never had sleep apnea. Very, very firm in that. And people are like, we have videos of you saying that you have sleep apnea. And she comes back with, well, I've never actually gone to the doctor and been tested for it, and I don't have any symptoms now, which I don't believe. She sleeps pretty much sitting up. She's confirmed this in the past, given the sheer number of pillows that she has. We've seen that. And also, I don't think that Amber can actually lie down and go to sleep. I don't think that her back would allow it. I don't think that she can breathe if she does. And she said that when she had surgery, the DNC that she'd had when right before her hysterectomy, she said that she had stopped breathing several times according to the doctors, and that was an indication of having sleep apnea. Now, when a doctor gives you a diagnosis like that, they're not diagnosing you. There are criteria for making that a diagnosis, right? So a doctor can say, I think you might have cancer, but until they locate something in my body that looks like cancer, until they can look at it under a microscope and be like, yep, that's cancer, until a pathologist comes back and says, yep, she had cancer, it's not actually cancer. You just suspect this person might have it, right? If I'm having, I don't know, if I'm sleeping for 17 hours a day, I'm irritable, I'm like quiet, I'm withdrawn, I've lost motivation and interest in people, a doctor might look at me and say, I think she might be depressed, but until the proper physician can like assess me in my entirety and make that diagnosis, it's just a guess. So when a doctor comes to you and they say, hey, you might have sleep apnea, it is up to you at this point to actually follow up with that and be like, okay, can we have a sleep study done so that I can know for sure whether or not I have sleep apnea, right? Now the doctor must have recommended it, or they should have recommended it at any rate. And this isn't even the only time, by the way, that she's mentioned that she might have sleep apnea. She mentioned once before, it's a very, very old video, and she was living with Eric and Ricky, that the doctor thinks that she might have sleep apnea, which would make sense. And she's mentioned multiple times how much difficulty she has sleeping, how hard it is for her to fall asleep, you know, how much back pain she has, how exhausted she is. Even when she does sleep, she doesn't seem to get great sleep. And all of those can be indications of her having sleep apnea. She just doesn't want the official diagnosis because that's one more thing that she would have to actually deal with. Amber is very much so the kind of person who avoids her problems. It's why she doesn't like going to the doctors, because as far as she sees, you go to the doctors, you only get bad news. The doctor gives you bad news a lot. And so that's why she doesn't like going there. But if you don't get that news, you can't actually take control of your narrative and then make changes to make sure that it's good news the next time you go. Avoidance is not effective. You can't bury your head in the sand forever. It's because you take your body with you everywhere you go. So you can't exactly leave it behind, you know? I think I'm borrowing that phrase from Milk Tea Reacts. She's used it a few times in reference to Chantel. But it's very much true for Amber as well. You know, Chantel likes to run away from her life. That's why she likes to go on those long drives. Amber avoids. She hides in her room. She turtles, essentially. And that's not going to work either. So she says here that at the time of the DNC that she had, you know, had issues, but that she doesn't have any issues now. I 100% do not believe that. I don't think that her weight has changed significantly enough for her to really not be experiencing any of those issues, especially right now where she weighs like 540 pounds plus, right? Her highest weight that she's ever achieved was, if I remember correctly, it was 572.4. And she's like less than 30 pounds away from that weight. Do I believe that that amount of weight on someone who is 500 plus pounds is really going to make that much of a difference? No. You need to get a sleep study done. You cannot be sure until you've had a sleep study and ruled it out that that's not the cause. It could very well be that she doesn't have sleep apnea, but she doesn't have conclusive evidence. And right now the doctor is looking at you and saying, hey, you might have it.
Why is Amber shadow banned? No idea.
Oh! Shadow banning is not a thing. Like I said, I talked to YouTube and they said that that is a myth.
Oh, shadow ban's a myth.
So there's been some rumor for a time that Amber has been shadow banned on YouTube. I would not be surprised to hear that in the least. Amber's channel is not exactly the kind of thing that they want to promote. There's a lot of controversy happening around her, and unfortunately, this is true, she is not young, skinny, and attractive to get away with those controversies, right? She's also never willing to owe up to any of her mistakes, which is another reason why she can't ever seem to really move past them. And so when you look at Amber's channel, it's not the kind of thing that YouTube wants to be seen as the face of their channel. And yet at the same time, she does bring in some amount of money. And last but not least, shadow banning is not exactly the thing they're going to admit to, right? So if they have shadow banned her because she doesn't fit the criteria of what they want representing them, they're not exactly going to come forward and say, hey, we're banning you. Because if they do, then they're going to have to explain why. And already YouTube gets a lot of shit, rightfully so, I would say, about its handling of who to ban, who to monetize, who not to monetize, all of that stuff. Shadow banning is a great way to just basically drop you down in the algorithm enough so that your videos still popular for people who really want to see them, but not enough so that, you know, new people will find you, to essentially kill your channel growth. And you will see that on stuff like sometimes people will cover controversial topics. I know I bring him up a lot, but Philip DeFranco, right? He will put out a video that is covering a sensitive issue, and that one video will have significantly fewer views. And it's because it's been suppressed in the algorithm. They can do it to individual videos and they can do it to channels. And if you don't think it's real, you're naively believing someone you really shouldn't be believing.
You don't think you still have cancer? That's the stupidest answer that has ever come out of your mouth yet. My oncologist says I don't. I have to accept it for what it is. I don't know. In a month, though, I do have a CT scan scheduled. So,
look, I'm saying this as someone who 75% of my family is doctors and I'm in medical research, right? Like, I don't mean to come across as like being condescending towards doctors. I love them, a lot of them personally and with my whole heart. And doctors do a lot of good and they're knowledgeable and you should listen to them. But doctors are not God. Doctors rely on diagnostic tools to help make a determination about whether or not you have a certain medical condition. So Amber going to her doctor and her doctor saying, I don't think you have cancer, means absolutely nothing to me. Because until she can fit into a PET scan, a CAT scan, a MRI machine, and they can conclusively rule out that her cancer didn't spread to anywhere else where it's very tiny and growing, you can't be sure, right? And you haven't been able to get a lot of those tests. The only thing I think that she can get is a CAT scan. And everything else she is too heavy and too big to fit into. So you don't know for sure. And yeah, I mean, I hope that you're right and the doctor is right and he's probably basing it on a very educated guess, but he can't conclusively rule it out. And that's why it's such a big issue for you to be the weight that you are. It's all body positivity and everyone's fat phobic towards me until you get to something like this and you're like, your weight is actively hampering a doctor's ability to make sure that you're not dying as we speak. I don't understand. This is not a thing that you should be fighting with us on. This is a thing that you should use as fuel to go see a therapist, not a psychiatrist, which, by the way, I got wrong in my previous video when she mentioned that she'd been going to a psychiatrist for over 2 years. I misread it and I thought it was a therapist and that she'd been actually talking to somebody for 2 years. No, and even now, you know, the person that she's seeing right now, it's not a dietitian, it's a nutritionist, which, you know, my feelings on nutritionists, they're like garbage. At best, they're like almost as good as a dietitian. At worst, they're con artists, right? So she does so little to actively help herself, and then she buries her head in the sand. And this is just another example of that. She's just willing to take her doctor's word for it, even though I'm sure the doctor phrased it as something like, you probably don't have cancer. When it comes to something like cancer, I would never ever take someone's word for it. I'm like, show me the evidence. I want hardcore proof that this isn't true, that I'm okay right now. And I get, even then, those machines can be wrong and sometimes they don't pick it up in time. But God, I wouldn't take just one person's word for it. She's not willing to take one person's word when it comes to stuff like losing weight, on how she should eat and whatever. But one oncologist tells her you probably don't have cancer. Good enough for me. But you got to talk to 7 different dietitians, nutritionists, and medical mediums to make sure that the diet you're eating is fine for you, right? Make it make sense. Just have the same energy for those 2 things. That's all.
Which reaction channels do I dislike the most? Do you want to do a 1, 2, 3 and then answer and see if we have the same or no?
I mean, sure, but I don't really watch them.
No,
from what I gather.
Okay, so do you want to do it on the count of 3? Do you have yours?
Sure, I guess.
Think real hard. I have 2, but I'll go with 1.
Well, I don't know. This person hasn't made anything about you in a while, right?
I don't know. I don't know whose yours is. Ready? 1. Call them by their real name. Don't do like our little jokes that we do.
I don't even know if I know her real name.
No, I meant like her real. It's a girl? Yeah. So it's mine! Okay. No, like the real username or whatever. Okay, ready? Set. 1, 2, 3. Charlie Gold.
So they both named Charlie Gold as the person that they dislike when it comes to reactors. I'm not surprised. I'd actually expected that. Though I will say I was shocked she didn't say Young Dumb Honey Bun, given the whole controversy that started off with her. Charlie is by far the biggest of the reaction channels, so it makes sense to me that that's who they would pick. Still, the thing that irritates me is that they don't ever really use this as a learning experience to be like, oh, okay, well, what is it that Charlie's saying that's upsetting me? It's just that, well, she's saying mean things. Charlie has a blunt delivery. 100%. I won't disagree with you that. Whether you enjoy her style or not is up to you. I personally do, but not everybody has to. You don't even have to appreciate my style. You don't have to like me. That's totally okay. Everybody has different opinions and tastes, right? And everybody's valid in that regard. But a lot of the substance of what Charlie's saying is not wrong, right? She might hurt your feelings, but she's not wrong about your behavior. And if you really, really don't want her to say that anymore, maybe change your behavior and she won't have that ammo anymore. I say this all the time, but prove me wrong. Do you know how happy I would be if one of these girls comes on here and be like, this bitch is wrong about everything because I've actually seen a therapist and I'm getting better? Do you know how happy that would make me? Like, despite what people say, this is not like, this channel doesn't provide me with enough income for me to like live my life off of this. I'm not reliant on this. I'm on camera because I like talking about this stuff and I like talking to the people in the audience about it, right? It's like having a community at large discussing the same things with me that I don't really have the avenue to talk about in real life because none of my friends are interested in the same thing, right? So that's why I do it. That's why a lot of reactors do it. Trust me, YouTube money isn't as good as people seem to think it is. Otherwise, I would have already had that camera and fancy sound equipment. I just mean that she has a very skewed view of why people are offering criticism. And I want her, and Chantel, quite frankly, to lose the weight just so that they can see what it's like for people on the other side. Just so they can no longer use, well, you're just fat phobic as an excuse to dismiss all criticism against her. Because that's what she does with Charlie. She's like, well, you're saying mean things about me, and therefore everything you say and or think is invalid. When in reality, a lot of what Charlie says has good points behind it. A lot of why Charlie says what she says is because it makes sense. That's just how I feel on it.
I see you in Neg's chat. He's a good channel to support. He comes for the gremlin Callie. Ugh. Yeah, I like Negs. I do.
So she says the same thing. I think a little while ago, Chantel had also thrown her support behind Negs' channel. You can like who you like, but be careful about who you're supporting because I have given Amber a lot of credit for not accepting support from people who are incredibly problematic, even though she does get a lot of hate. Negs is not a channel you want to be supporting. He's said and done incredibly awful things to people. And if you're so anti like fat like shaming people, he does that on Twitter all of the damn time. So like maybe pick your friends, right? I know you want support from people, but it's better to accept support. I'm not saying you have to like me, but there are a lot of channels out there like me who will give you a little bit of shit, but also take your side when you're right about something. Like when the whole messages between you and Norma leaked. I was on her side for that. That video is still on my channel if you guys want to go back and watch it. And I still stand behind everything I said in that video, right? I don't like the fact that just because someone is willing to support you, you're willing to overlook all of their negative behaviors. I just said, I like Charlie. I consider her to be a friend of mine behind the scenes. And I agree with a lot of the points that she makes. But I just said, her delivery is really blunt and it's not for everyone. She can come across as being too harsh. And that's how you should be. You can say, I appreciate the fact that there's a channel named Negs and he's defending me, but I don't appreciate X, Y, and Z. Right? Well, because while I don't really believe in guilt by association, that just because you quote unquote support someone who has said things about you in the past that are like, who has said complimentary things about you and whatever that you're friends with, and they've said stuff that's problematic. I don't really believe in guilt by association. When you are a channel as big as you are and you throw your support behind a smaller channel, you are implicitly endorsing them, right? Being friends with someone in a personal capacity and endorsing a smaller channel, because you and Negs don't know each other personally, there's a very big difference. And you want to be careful.
This is why people get confused and upset. I don't feel like I have cancer and my oncologist says I don't, aren't the same thing and causes confusion. They're exactly the same thing. I can feel that way and also be told that I no longer have cancer. And how do I explain this? When I had cancer and before I found out, I knew something was off, obviously. Then once I was told, everything made sense. Now, after my hysterectomy, I no longer have that. Like, how do you explain that? 'Cause remember how your mom kept saying, I really feel like I still have it. I feel like something's
like
inside
you
of me.
can still feel like you have that. My mom always said it. Like she was taking her radiation. She was just like, you know, I still feel like there's something going on. Lo and behold, we were right. So,
and
she was right.
I don't have that feeling throughout me. My hair is so shiny.
All right, once more we come back to, she doesn't feel like she has cancer. I don't know what that exactly is supposed to feel like. I guess she doesn't have UTI after UTI after UTI, and I guess that's good enough for her, maybe? I don't know.
How's being told by a profession, feeling some way, the same thing, no hate, for real, this is the stem of your hate, confusion.
Wait, how is being told by a profession and just feeling some way the same thing, no hate, for real, this is some of your hate, confusion, and clear. Okay. How do I explain that? Say I'm going to the dentist for a cavity and they tell me you have no cavities. Okay. I can either go home and feel like, okay, my tooth hurts, I could possibly have another cavity. It's okay, baby girl. She saw someone out there. Or like, okay, say I go to the ER because I have the flu and then they send me home. They're like, okay, you're totally fine. But then I come home and I start feeling nauseous, or I either don't feel nauseous or I do. Then I'll sit there and I know within my body, okay, I know I have the flu still or I don't. It's hard to explain what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is I don't feel like I have cancer anymore.
And your oncologist,
like, I don't know how to explain that anymore.
But honestly, you just need to get a scan.
Yeah,
So,
I'm getting my CT. I have to get
baby.
CT scan every so and so months. It's coming up in a month and I'm nervous.
She gives this really inane example about how if she doesn't have any tooth pain and her dentist says she doesn't have cavities, then I guess she doesn't have cavities. Right, but a dentist is going to look into your mouth and take x-rays and then tell you, hey, you don't have any cavities, right? By that logic, an oncologist should be able to do a PET scan, a CAT scan, an MRI, run blood tests, and ask you a bunch of diagnostic questions and then be like, okay, cool, you don't have cancer. But he can't do a bunch of them because of your weight. It makes it impossible for him to actually use his full diagnostic toolkit. He's limited to very small bits of information, stuff that he can gather from your PET scan or CAT scan, I forget which one she can fit into, and some information that he can gather from the blood test and what you're saying to him. But he can't use some of his most powerful tools. This would be like if you went to a dentist but your mouth was wired shut and you're like, hey, do I have cavities? And the dentist is like, well, I can't look into your mouth, but maybe you don't. Maybe it's fine because you aren't eating food the way that you were before. That doesn't mean anything. He's making an educated guess, but it is fundamentally still just a guess. It's so dumb. The fact that she's just willing to take his word for it and doesn't care that he can't even use the tools that he wants. And he's not even willing to say, you don't have cancer. He's saying, maybe. I don't know. It just seems really dumb to me. Anyway, next.
Putting on makeup is like a way for me to be like out of sight, out of mind. And I'm sure you guys have noticed I've been wearing makeup in all my videos for a bit of a time now because I've noticed it's just getting worse and worse. But I want to sit here and say it's okay to not be perfect and not to have the perfect skin. Everyone expects me to come on here and just be all put together. And I know I get judged on my skin. I am constantly being told I need to get my liver checked as if I don't know that my skin has a yellow tint to it, as if my doctors don't know. It's hard to constantly hear. It's frustrating. Ultimately, it's embarrassing, and I have been hating to show my face. And I have also been going through a depression, which has made it to where I don't want to do my makeup. So it's like this vicious cycle where I'm like, okay, I need to do my makeup so I can film my YouTube video, but I can't do my makeup because I'm depressed. And if you have depression, you understand.
So she starts her video talking about how recently she's been feeling pretty self-conscious about filming because, her skin's been looking really bad and she just doesn't, want to be on camera without putting makeup and everything on, and how, putting makeup on can seem like such a monumental task when you're feeling depressed. Yes, but, look, I feel bad for you. I sympathize that you are having mental health issues. That being said, when you refuse to help yourself, it becomes really difficult having a conversation with you or really feeling sympathy for you when you won't help yourself. It's one of those things where it's like, why should I be asked to care more than you care about yourself, right? You want me to put in all of this effort and be like, yeah, of course, we totally understand. Yes, I have sympathy for you, care for you. But at the same time, you are actively making your situation worse. Forget helping yourself. You genuinely make your your situation worse by doing things like going off of medication without like talking to anybody, without exercising, without confiding in doctors when you could, avoidance, eating things you really should not be eating. It makes it hard for me to have sympathy for you in those situations.
There will be some of you who relate. There will be some of you who can't even walk out of their house without makeup on. So to those of you who do relate, let's just stand together and know that us and our natural beauty, even if you don't feel beautiful, aka me, there's beauty in everything, and it's okay to not have art on your face, to feel as confident as we can. Okay, so to those of you who are like, okay, this isn't even a big deal, what is she like rambling on about for freaking 7 minutes? Let's do my weigh-in.
Another comment she makes is talking about how she feels self-conscious. Now the thing is, you shouldn't wear makeup because you think that you're ugly and that you feel self-conscious. You should wear makeup because you found it empowering. I am not ashamed of the way that my skin looks, the way that my face looks without makeup on. I like putting makeup on because it implies a level of effort on my part when I come onto the camera. I wouldn't go into work without being in clean clothes, without being professionally dressed, without putting my best foot forward. And the makeup to me is an extension of that. It's also therapeutic and calming for me, but it's also an extension of trying to make sure that I look my best. I wouldn't go in without combing my hair, for example, but it's not necessary. I have gone into work before without any makeup on. I've been on camera a lot of times without any makeup on when I do my get ready with me's. It's not because I'm self-conscious about the way that I look. It's because I think there is a level of effort you should put in when you're putting your face forward into the world. And that's how you should view it. If you're viewing it more as I'm hideous and I can't go on camera because I'm so hideous that people will think I'm ugly, I don't think that that's a fix. I don't think that you should be wearing makeup in that sense. I think you should become more familiar with your natural face and feel comfortable in that. A lot of these things that people say are feminine, women find issues with putting makeup on or having to wear heels, not because they inherently think that wearing heels and putting makeup on are bad things, but it's because the idea that you have to do it, otherwise you are not quite as worthy, is where the problem is. It's the implication behind it. I like wearing heels. I like wearing makeup. But if I don't do those things, my inherent worth isn't any less, right? And there's the flip side to that is that I can't tie my self-worth in my head to those things either. I'm not more attractive because I'm wearing heels. I am not more worthy because I'm wearing heels. I shouldn't wear makeup because my natural skin is ugly, because I'm hideous. I should wear them because I want to wear them, because I find it enjoyable to the act of putting those things on my face, and because I want to look a certain way in front of other people. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It's just weight to me has become such a burden. I am constantly thinking about my weight, and I'm constantly thinking about food, and it's become to the point where it's just like, oh, this again? Definitely in a future video, I am going to talk more about like how I'm losing weight, how I plan to lose weight, the things I have already done and what I plan to be doing to better my health and things like that. I do want my weight loss to be a big focus on my channel because it needs to be a big focus in my real life. I just don't want to set myself up for failure by doing challenges and planning all these goals and dreams and all this stuff. It's just like, no, that is how I fail every single time. If you are new to my channel, yes, I do weigh 544 today, but my highest weight is 572.4. So I am down a little bit of weight, but it was just last year when I was down to like 480, 478. So I've gained a lot, and I'm hoping to get back down there.
So she says that she wants to make small, long-term sustainable goals and whatnot, and like lose weight in that sense. And she doesn't want to set up challenges for herself and fail them. I can understand being very strict with yourself and then failing those challenges, but at the same time, having no expectations for yourself is also a recipe to fail, because then you can just keep moving the goalpost, you know? You can just say, well, yeah, that didn't work, but then I got this, right? It's like when she does her 100 days of uploading, she'll start with, I'm going to upload for 100 days. Well, she'll start with something like, I'm going to do weight loss for 100 days. Then I'll upload for 100 days. It'll be, I uploaded for half the time. And, you know, she just keeps moving the goalposts of what counts as success. And that's what I don't like. You should set goals for yourself that are realistic. So rather than saying, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in a month, it should be something like, I'll try and lose 5 pounds in a month. I'll try and make sure that I exercise every single day. I'll try and only eat out like 3 times in the month or 4 times in the month, something like that. Have realistic, understandable, sustainable goals. And then keep doing those and build on top of that. Once that one thing becomes a habit, walking every day becomes a habit. Okay, I'm going to walk every day and do 10 minutes of like lifting, right? Of weights. And then do like, okay, now that I've gotten that down pat, I'm going to try and make sure that I go to bed like between the hours of 10 and 11 every single day. You know, like stuff like that. Small, healthy habits that build on top of each other to actually have a big impact on your life down the line. But this idea that you shouldn't have any goals for yourself because you're going to fail, well, then how will you ever know you've succeeded? No failure means no success. They're the flip sides of one coin. Anyway, she also weighs in this video around this point, and she is 544 pounds right now. She doesn't actually get a step on the scale. She did that in her live, though, and she was, I think, 541. So she's about a 3-pound difference, which it doesn't mean she's actually gained about 3 pounds. You know, your body weight can fluctuate a lot, especially when you're as heavy as Amber. Just something like water weight, salt intake can make that big of a difference. And honestly, even in people who are significantly less than her, but for her especially. And that's all there really is to this video. I'm hoping that we see more like health aimed content. So, you know, her working out, her being healthier, all of that. But I have no way of knowing. And honestly, with Amber, it's always a guessing game. That will be it for this video. I know that the Amber videos don't do as well as the Chantel videos, mostly because there's so much happening with Chantel, but those are the 2 girls that I started out with, and I still really want to talk about them. If there's something in particular you want me to talk about when it comes to Amber's channel, please do let me know, and I can make a video just dedicated and focused on that rather than just her weekend review. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated this video, you can give me a thumbs down. That's totally okay. I respect everybody's opinions here. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification bell down below and hit all when you want to know when I upload any videos right away. If you want to follow me on any of my social medias, those are all linked down below. I've got Instagram where I've got food stuff, life stuff, always more stuff happening, and I'm about to travel a little bit, so probably see pictures from that. I've got I already said Instagram. I've got Twitter. I'm a little toxic and a little petty on Twitter, but I'm also the easiest reach there. If you want to know what my random thoughts are about stuff, that's probably where you can find it. And I've got Patreon. Think of Patreon as the tip jar for the internet. So if you like the job that I'm doing here and you would like me to continue, hey, consider tossing a few coins in my direction. You don't have to. It's not necessary. But I would really like to fix this mic, and anything you give me really would help towards that. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace. A special thanks to my patrons, Acrophobe Christina, Courtney EP, Gigi Wee, Wild Rose, Jam Beans, Jay Thomas, Lauren Chris, Michael B. Petty, That British Unicorn, Sky Andropolis, Sonia P., Xanthal, Debbie Elliott, D. Higgins, Juliet Q, and Kate O.